Imagine finding a single penny in your pocket that looks completely ordinary, but could actually be worth far more than 1 cent. No special shine, no strange color, no unusual symbol, just a quiet little coin from 1971 with no mint mark. Most people spend it without a second thought, but collectors know that some of these humble pennies carry stories, mysteries, and in rare cases, surprising value. Today, we're uncovering the true story behind the 1971 no mint mark Lincoln penny and why it still fascinates collectors more than 50 years later. Let's start with what this coin actually is. The 1971 no mint mark Lincoln penny is a 1 cent coin struck in Philadelphia, where pennies traditionally did not carry mint marks at the time. If you look under the date and see no letter like D or S, that means it was made in Philadelphia. Millions of these coins were produced, and most people have handled one at some point without realizing it. But within this massive production run, some coins stand out in remarkable ways. To understand this penny, we have to travel back to the early 1970s. America was changing fast. The country had just landed on the moon 2 years earlier. The Vietnam War was winding down. Inflation was rising, and metal prices were becoming a serious concern for the U.S. Mint. Pennies were still made mostly of copper, but the cost of copper was climbing. The Mint knew big changes were coming, but in 1971, Lincoln cents were still being struck in their traditional bronze composition. The Lincoln penny itself had already been around for more than 60 years by then. First issued in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real person. By 1971, Americans had grown up with Lincoln's profile on their pennies. It was one of the most familiar coins in the country, trusted, recognizable, and deeply connected to everyday life. The design of the 1971 penny is simple and classic. On the front or obverse, you see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the word Liberty to the left and the date to the right. Above his head is the familiar motto, "In God We Trust." On the back or reverse is the Lincoln Memorial, which had replaced the wheat stalk design in 1959. Inside the memorial, if you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside, making this one of the few U.S. coins that shows the same person twice. In terms of metal, the 1971 no mint mark penny is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. It weighs about 3.11 grams and measures 19 millimeters in diameter. These are standard specs for pennies of that era. But today, copper itself has become more valuable than it once was, which adds another layer of interest to older cents like this one. So if millions were made, why does anyone care about the 1971 no mint mark penny? The answer lies in condition, rarity within the series, and something collectors always chase: errors and varieties. First, let's talk about condition. Most 1971 pennies you'll find today are worn, scratched, or dull from decades of circulation. These are usually worth just 1 cent, maybe 2 or 3 cents to someone who wants copper coins. But coins that were never used, known as uncirculated coins, can be worth significantly more. And coins that are in nearly perfect condition, especially those graded by professional services, can command impressive prices. In fact, some top-quality examples of the 1971 no mint mark penny have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars at auction. A pristine coin graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services can bring in serious money because so few survive in that condition. When millions are made, but only a tiny fraction remain flawless, scarcity is created where you least expect it. Now let's talk about errors, because this is where things get really exciting. During the minting process, mistakes sometimes happen. Dies can crack, letters can be doubled, metal can be misaligned, or coins can be struck off-center. Most of these errors are caught and destroyed, but some escape into circulation. And when they do, collectors take notice. One of the most famous error types to look for on 1971 pennies is doubling. This can appear on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." If the letters look doubled or shadowed, that could be a double die error, which is highly collectible. Another type of error includes off-center strikes, where the design isn't centered on the coin, leaving part of it blank. Some 1971 pennies were also struck on defective planchets, resulting in odd shapes, missing metal, or unusual textures. While major errors are rare, they do exist, and when discovered, they can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on severity and condition. This is why collectors always recommend checking your change carefully, especially older pennies. Let's talk real numbers. A typical circulated 1971 no mint mark penny is usually worth between 1 and 5 cents. An uncirculated example might sell for anywhere from 25 cents to a few dollars, but high-grade examples can go much higher. Some professionally graded 1971 pennies in top condition have sold at auction for over $1,000. In rare cases, near-perfect specimens have gone even higher. Error coins are a different story. A clear double-die 1971 penny can bring in anywhere from $50 to several $100s. Dramatic off-center strikes or other major mint errors can reach similar ranges or more, depending on how unusual they are and how strong the collector demand is at the time. But how do you know if your 1971 penny is real or valuable? Let's walk through the basics. First, check the date and mint mark. If the coin says 1971 and there is no letter under the date, it was made in Philadelphia. That's normal and correct for this coin. Next, look at the condition. Is the coin shiny and clean or dull and worn? Are Lincoln's facial details sharp, or are they smooth from years of handling? The better the condition, the higher the potential value. Then, use a magnifying glass or phone camera zoom to examine the letters and numbers. Look closely at the word Liberty, the date, and In God We Trust. Do any letters look doubled or blurred in a way that seems unusual? If so, you might be looking at a double die variety. Also, check the edges and shape of the coin. Is it perfectly round and centered, or does the design appear shifted? That could signal an off-center strike. Weight can also be helpful. A normal 1971 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. A significant difference might suggest an error or a wrong metal planchet, although that's much rarer. When in doubt, collectors recommend professional grading services. These companies authenticate coins, evaluate condition, and assign grades that the market trusts. While grading costs money, it can be worth it for coins that appear to be high-grade or have unusual features. Now let's talk about some fun and surprising details about the 1971 penny. Did you know that 1971 pennies were among the last full years of mostly copper cents before the big shift to zinc-based pennies in the early 1980s? This makes them especially interesting to collectors who focus on copper composition coins. Many people today save precious 1,982 pennies simply because of their copper content, and 1971 pennies are a big part of that group. Another fun fact is that some collectors specialize in what's called memorial cents, the design used from 1959 to 2008. The 1971 penny sits right in the middle of this era, and for collectors building complete sets by date and mint mark, it's an essential piece. There's also something deeply nostalgic about these coins. Think about it. In 1971, this penny could have been used to buy candy, make a phone call from a payphone, or help pay for a newspaper. It passed through countless hands during a time when America was experiencing major cultural, political, and economic changes. Each one is a tiny artifact of everyday life from more than 50 years ago. Collectors love the 1971 no mint mark penny, not because it's the rarest coin in the world, but because it represents something powerful in numismatics, hidden value in ordinary places. It reminds people that you don't need gold coins or ancient artifacts to enjoy coin collecting. Sometimes, all it takes is a magnifying glass, curiosity, and a handful of spare change. It also appeals to beginners because it's easy to find and affordable, while still offering the excitement of potential discovery. You can search rolls from the bank, dig through old jars, or check inherited collections, and there's always the possibility of finding a high-grade coin or a rare error. For experienced collectors, the 1971 penny becomes a challenge of condition. Finding one in truly exceptional shape is difficult, and competition for top-graded examples can be intense. This blend of accessibility and challenge is one reason the coin remains popular decades after it was minted. So what should you do if you think you found a special 1971 penny? First, don't clean it. Cleaning can scratch the surface and reduce its value dramatically. Handle it gently by the edges and store it in a soft holder or envelope. Then, compare it with images of known varieties and errors online or in coin guides. If it looks promising, consider showing it to a local coin dealer or sending it to a professional grading service for evaluation. Even if it turns out to be a regular example worth just a few cents, the experience itself is part of the joy of collecting. You've learned something new, sharpened your eye, and connected with a piece of American history. The truth is, the 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't famous because every example is rare or valuable. It's famous because it proves that coins don't have to look extraordinary to be meaningful. It represents a moment in time, a shift in American coinage, and the idea that hidden treasures can exist in the most ordinary places. And who knows? Somewhere right now, a nearly perfect 1971 penny or a rare error variety could be sitting unnoticed in a drawer, a jar, or a pocket, waiting for someone curious enough to look closely. So the next time you find a penny on the ground or at the bottom of your change cup, don't dismiss it. Flip it over. Check the date. Look for the mint mark, because sometimes history, mystery, and even real value can be hiding in the smallest coin of all. Most people walk past this penny every day without giving it a second thought. But what if I told you that a simple 1978 Lincoln penny, especially one with no mint mark, could be worth far more than 1 cent, and in rare cases, hundreds or even thousands of dollars? The truth is, some of the most valuable coins in America don't look special at all, and this one might already be sitting in your pocket right now. Today, we're exploring the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans handled, spent, and ignored, yet one that collectors quietly search for every single day. At first glance, it looks ordinary, but once you understand its history, hidden varieties, and rare errors, you'll see why this coin has become one of the most fascinating modern Lincoln cents in circulation. The Lincoln penny has been part of American life since 1909, when it was first introduced to honor President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. By 1978, the design was nearly 70 years old, and Americans had grown used to seeing Lincoln's portrait on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But 1978 wasn't just another year for pennies. It came at a turning point in U.S. history, when inflation was rising, copper prices were climbing, and the future of the penny itself was already being questioned. The 1978 penny was struck during a time when the United States Mint was producing massive numbers of coins to keep up with everyday commerce. Millions of people were using cash daily, at gas stations, grocery stores, movie theaters, and vending machines. And pennies, even with shrinking buying power, were still essential for making exact change. That year, the Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents across 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But the coin we're focusing on today, the 1978 penny with no mint mark, was struck in Philadelphia. And that's important, because Philadelphia coins traditionally do not carry a mint mark. So if you see a 1978 penny without a letter below the date, it was made there. While millions of these coins exist, not all of them are equal, and some are far more valuable than others. Let's talk about what this coin looks like. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1978 to the right. Beneath the date, you'll notice something missing: no letter at all. That's the sign of a Philadelphia strike. On the back, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial with the words "United States of America" and 1 cent surrounding it, and "E pluribus unum" at the top. Now here's where things get interesting. The 1978 penny was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, the classic bronze composition that had been used for decades. This was just a few years before the U.S. Mint would permanently change pennies to mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. That makes the 1978 penny part of the final generation of true copper cents, and that alone gives it long-term appeal to collectors. But metal content isn't the only thing that matters. Condition plays a massive role in value. Most 1978 pennies are worn, scratched, or darkened from decades of circulation. Those are usually worth only face value. But coins that were never used, known as uncirculated coins, can be worth much more. And coins with mint errors can be worth exponentially more. So what kinds of errors are collectors searching for on 1978 no-mint mark pennies? One of the most famous varieties is the 1978 doubled die obverse. This happens when the coin die receives a doubled impression during manufacturing, causing letters and numbers to appear doubled. On these coins, you may notice doubling on "In God We Trust," on the word "Liberty," or even on the date. This doubling is not damage, it's a real mint error, and collectors love it. Another valuable error is the off-center strike. This occurs when the blank coin planchet is not properly aligned in the press, causing part of the design to be missing. Some off-center 1978 pennies show dramatic misalignment while still displaying the full date, and those can bring serious money. There are also broad strikes, clipped planchets, and wrong metal errors, where the coin is struck on the wrong type of metal blank. These errors are rare, but when they appear, collectors compete fiercely for them. Now let's talk about real value, not hype, not guesses, but actual prices collectors have paid. A normal circulated 1978 no-mint mark penny is usually worth 1 cent, maybe 2 or 3 cents in bulk copper value. But in uncirculated condition, things change quickly. A high-grade example with full luster and no marks can sell for several dollars, sometimes more if certified. But the real excitement comes with top-grade specimens and error varieties. Certified 1978 no-mint mark pennies, graded MS67 or higher, by professional grading services have sold at auction for hundreds of dollars. In some cases, nearly perfect examples with blazing red color and flawless surfaces have reached 4 figures. That's right, over $1,000 for a coin that originally bought almost nothing. And doubled die examples can go even higher. Some strong doubled die obverse 1978 pennies have sold for several $100s, depending on the clarity of the doubling and overall condition. Off-center strikes and major mint errors from this year have brought similar or even higher prices, especially when visually dramatic. So why is this coin valuable when so many exist? It all comes down to survival rates. While hundreds of millions were made, almost all were spent, scratched, worn, and damaged over time. Only a tiny fraction survived in pristine condition, and an even smaller number escaped the mint with striking errors that collectors crave. That combination, high original mintage but low survival in top condition, creates scarcity where you least expect it. Now, if you're curious whether you might own one of these coins, here's how to identify a real 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. First, check the date. It must read 1978, then look directly below the date. If there's no letter, it's from Philadelphia, the one we're discussing today. Next, look at the color and surface. A valuable example will usually have bright copper-red tones and sharp details, especially in Lincoln's hair and beard. Then examine the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the numbers in the date. Use a magnifying glass or phone camera. If you see doubling, not blurry edges but clear separation, you may have a double die variety. Also look for unusual shapes, missing sections, or misaligned designs that could indicate striking errors. Weight can help too. A genuine 1978 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If it's significantly heavier or lighter, it could be a wrong metal error or altered coin, both worth investigating further. As for fakes, most counterfeit pennies are altered dates or damaged coins made to look like rare varieties. Real mint errors will show smooth metal flow and consistent features, not scratches or gouges. When in doubt, professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can authenticate and certify your coin, which often dramatically increases its market value. Now let's talk about some fascinating facts that make this penny even more interesting. Did you know that in 1978, the U.S. Mint was already preparing for the eventual death of the copper penny? Copper prices were rising so fast that it was becoming more expensive to produce a penny than the coin was worth. Just 4 years later, in 1982, the Mint would officially switch to zinc-based cents. That makes the 1978 penny part of the final chapter of traditional American bronze coinage, a quiet ending to a 200-year tradition. Another fun fact: more Lincoln cents were produced in 1978 than almost any year before it. This massive production run means many Americans alive today handled these coins firsthand as children or young adults. For collectors, that creates powerful nostalgia, and emotional connection plays a huge role in coin collecting. Also, the Lincoln Memorial reverse design would only last one more year. In 2009, the Mint replaced it with special commemorative designs, and then with the Union Shield. That makes 1978 part of the closing decades of one of the most recognizable coin designs in U.S. history. So why do collectors love this coin today? Because it represents something unique, a modern coin that still holds the possibility of big discovery. Unlike ancient coins locked away in museums, the 1978 no-mint mark penny can still be found in circulation, in old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten drawers. Every time someone checks their change, there's a tiny chance they'll uncover a rare variety or high-grade survivor. Collectors also love it because it's accessible. You don't need thousands of dollars to start searching for valuable Lincoln cents. Anyone can participate. And that sense of treasure hunting, the thrill of possibly finding something rare where no one else noticed, keeps this coin in demand year after year. And then there's the emotional side. For many collectors, these pennies remind them of childhood piggy banks, allowances, candy store purchases, and simpler times. Holding a 1978 penny isn't just holding copper, it's holding a small piece of American life from nearly half a century ago. But perhaps the most powerful reason collectors love this coin is what it represents. The idea that something small, ordinary, and overlooked can still be valuable. That lesson goes far beyond coin collecting. It reminds us that sometimes the most extraordinary things hide in plain sight. So the next time you see a penny on the ground, on your dresser, or in your pocket, don't ignore it. Turn it over. Look at the date. Check for a mint mark. Examine the details. Because one quiet little coin from 1978, especially one without a mint mark, could be worth far more than you ever imagined. And who knows? The next rare discovery might not come from an auction house or museum vault. It might come from your change jar. So keep looking, keep learning, and remember, history doesn't always shine. Sometimes it's copper-colored, small enough to fit on your fingertip, and worth far more than 1 cent. Most people would walk right past this penny without a second thought. But what if I told you that one small detail on a 1991 Lincoln cent could turn a 1-cent coin into something collectors actively search for today. And in rare cases, that tiny difference can make the value jump far beyond face value. Let's take a closer look at the 1991 D. Lincoln penny and why it deserves your attention. The coin we're talking about today is the 1991 Lincoln 1-cent coin with a D mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Denver Mint. At first glance, it looks just like millions of other pennies from the late 20th century. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile faces right on the front, and the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly on the back. But behind this ordinary appearance is a fascinating story of American coinage, minting technology, and collector demand that still continues today. To understand this coin, we need to step back into the early 1990s. The United States was coming out of the high inflation era of the 1970s and early 1980s, and everyday cash use was still strong. Credit cards and digital payments were not yet common for small purchases, so billions of coins were needed every year to keep the economy moving. In 1991 alone, the Denver Mint produced over 4 billion Lincoln cents. That makes the 1991 D penny one of the most widely circulated coins of its time. Even though that sounds like a massive number, it doesn't mean every example is worth just 1 cent today. Coins from high mintage years can still become valuable due to condition, minting errors, and special varieties. And that's exactly where the 1991 D. Lincoln penny becomes interesting. The Lincoln cent itself has a long and important history. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical person instead of a symbolic figure. By 1991, the design had already been in use for over 80 years, and the Lincoln Memorial reverse, introduced in 1959, had become instantly recognizable to Americans. The designer of the obverse portrait, Victor David Brenner, created one of the most enduring coin designs in U.S. history. On the 1991 D penny, you'll see his initials, VDB, tucked subtly at the base of Lincoln's shoulder. The reverse design by Frank Gasparo shows the Lincoln Memorial, and if you look closely, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the building. It's one of the smallest and most detailed elements ever placed on a circulating U.S. coin. Now let's talk about what this coin is made of. By 1991, the U.S. Mint had already switched from mostly copper pennies to copper-plated zinc coins. The 1991 D penny is composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin outer layer of copper, giving it that traditional penny color while significantly reducing production costs. This change happened in 1982 and continues today. Because of this metal composition, 1991 pennies are lighter than older copper cents. They weigh about 2.5 grams instead of the earlier 3.11 grams. This difference matters to collectors, especially when identifying unusual errors or rare transitional pieces. While no official copper 1991 cents were released, collectors always stay alert because rare minting mistakes have appeared in other years, and surprises sometimes surface decades later. So what makes the 1991 D penny special if billions were made? The answer lies in condition and errors. Most examples spent years in circulation, getting scratched, stained, and worn down through everyday use. But coins that were carefully saved or never circulated at all can be surprisingly scarce today in top condition. In particular, 1991 D pennies graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services are extremely difficult to find. MS stands for mint state, meaning the coin shows no wear from circulation. At these high grades, even tiny marks, dull luster, or weak strikes can prevent a coin from earning a top score. Because of this, a small number of 1991 D pennies have become surprisingly valuable in the collector market. Some examples graded MS67 red, meaning they retain their full original copper color with no brown toning, have sold for hundreds of dollars. In exceptional cases, even higher prices have been recorded when competition between collectors drives demand upward. While these are not million-dollar coins, they show how condition alone can transform a common penny into a serious collectible. But that's not all. Error coins are where the 1991 D penny truly becomes exciting. Minting errors occur when something goes wrong during the coin production process. This could involve misaligned dies, wrong metal planchets, off-center strikes, or doubled images. And when these errors escape quality control and enter circulation, they often become highly sought after by collectors. One of the most popular errors for 1991 D pennies is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin planchet is not properly aligned in the press, resulting in part of the design missing. If the date and mint mark are still visible, these coins can be worth anywhere from $20 to over $100, depending on how dramatic the offset is. Another interesting error is the double strike, where a coin is struck more than once, creating overlapping or shifted images. These can be visually dramatic and are often valued in the $50 to $200 range or more, depending on clarity and condition. Clipped planchets are also possible. These occur when the metal strip is improperly cut, leaving a curved or straight chunk missing from the coin. If genuine, these errors can be quite collectible and usually sell for well above face value. Then there are doubled die errors, where parts of the design appear doubled due to a misalignment during die creation. While no famous major doubled die varieties are widely recognized for the 1991 D penny like some other years, minor doubling examples still exist and attract collector interest. Now let's talk about real-world auction and collector values. A standard circulated 1991 D penny is usually worth just 1 cent. Even in uncirculated condition, most examples sell for only a few cents to $1. But at the highest grades, the story changes. Certified MS67 red examples have sold in the range of $100 to $300, depending on market demand and eye appeal. Coins graded MS68 red, which are extremely rare for this date and mint, can bring significantly more, sometimes reaching into the high hundreds or even four figures when two serious collectors compete. Error coins, as mentioned earlier, can range from $20 to several $100s, and occasionally more for spectacular or rare mistakes. The key factor is always authenticity, condition, and visual impact. So how can you tell if you have a genuine 1991 D penny worth more than face value? The first step is identifying the mint mark. On Lincoln cents from this era, the mint mark appears just below the date on the obverse, to the right of Lincoln's bust. A small D indicates it was struck in Denver. Next, check the condition. Does the coin still have strong detail on Lincoln's hair, cheek, and jawline? Is the surface shiny with original luster or dull and worn? Coins with sharp details and bright red color have far greater potential than dark, scratched examples. Then look closely for errors. Use a magnifying glass and inspect the date, letters, and edges. Look for doubling, missing elements, off-center designs, cracks, or unusual shapes. Compare your coin to images of normal examples online or in coin guides. If something looks truly different, it might be worth professional evaluation. Be cautious of altered coins. Some people try to create fake errors by damaging coins after minting. For example, filing edges, bending coins, or hammering them can mimic genuine errors, but these pieces usually lack the clean, natural look of true mint mistakes. Real errors typically show smooth metal flow and consistent strike characteristics. If you believe you've found something special, the best next step is to have it authenticated and graded by a reputable service, such as PCGS or NGC. Certification not only confirms authenticity, but also gives your coin an official grade, which greatly helps determine market value. Now let's explore some fun and surprising facts about the 1991 D penny. First, because it's made mostly of zinc, it can corrode internally if the copper plating is damaged. This sometimes causes bubbling or blistering on the surface, which collectors call zinc rot. While this usually lowers value, it's an interesting reminder of how modern penny composition differs from older copper cents. Another fun fact is that many people born in 1991 unknowingly carry coins minted in their birth year in their pockets, jars, or piggy banks. Some collectors enjoy assembling birth year sets, and the 1991 D penny often plays a role in those collections. The Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse was retired in 2008, making all 1991 pennies part of a closed chapter in U.S. coin design history. Today, modern cents feature the Union Shield reverse instead, so collectors who love the classic memorial look often seek out examples from the earlier era. There's also something special about coins from the early 1990s because they represent the final generation of pennies widely used in everyday cash transactions before digital payments became dominant. These coins passed through countless hands, vending machines, cash registers, and piggy banks, quietly witnessing daily American life. So why do collectors love the 1991 D penny today? Part of it is accessibility. Almost anyone can afford to search for one, making it a great entry point into coin collecting. It teaches important lessons about grading, mint marks, and errors without requiring large investments. Another reason is the challenge. Finding a 1991 D penny in true gem condition, especially MS67 red or higher, is surprisingly difficult. Most examples were heavily circulated or poorly stored. Locating one with flawless surfaces, strong luster, and sharp strikes can feel like finding a needle in a haystack, and that challenge keeps collectors engaged. Error coin collectors are especially drawn to this date because it was produced in such high numbers, increasing the chance that rare mistakes slip through. Each discovery feels like uncovering a hidden story inside an ordinary object. There's also a sense of nostalgia. Many people remember using pennies like this in the early 1990s for candy, newspapers, parking meters, and small purchases that no longer exist in the same way today. Holding one brings back memories of a simpler cash-based economy. And finally, there's the thrill of possibility. Even though most 1991 D pennies are worth just 1 cent, the idea that a rare error or top-grade example could be hiding in plain sight keeps people checking their change. That feeling of potential discovery is at the heart of coin collecting. So the next time you see a 1991 penny with a small D under the date, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a moment to look closer. Check its condition. Examine its details. You might just be holding a piece of American history, a hidden error, or a high-grade survivor that escaped decades of wear. In the world of coin collecting, value isn't always about age or gold content. Sometimes it's about preservation, rarity within abundance, and the stories hidden inside everyday objects. The 1991 D Lincoln penny proves that even modern coins can surprise us. And who knows? The next penny you pull from a jar, pocket, or couch cushion might be more than just spare change. It might be a reminder that treasure doesn't always come in large packages. Sometimes, it fits right in the palm of your hand. Most people would never look twice at a penny from 1996. But what if I told you that one version of this coin could be sitting in a jar, drawer, or pocket right now, and quietly be worth far more than face value? Today, we're uncovering the story of the 1996 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin most people ignore, but collectors never do. This coin is a 1 cent piece produced by the United States Mint in 1996 at the Denver Mint, which is why it carries the small letter D below the date on the front. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary modern penny. Abraham Lincoln faces right on the front, and the Lincoln Memorial appears on the back, just like pennies minted for decades. But behind this familiar design is a story of massive production, hidden varieties, and surprising collector interest. The year 1996 was an important moment in modern U.S. coin history. America was in the middle of economic growth. The internet was beginning to enter everyday life, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins at enormous scale to keep up with demand. Pennies were still widely used for everyday purchases, and millions were being struck each month. The Denver Mint alone produced over 6 billion Lincoln cents that year, making the 1996 D penny one of the most widely minted coins of its time. But here's where things get interesting. When a coin is produced in such huge numbers, people assume it can never be valuable. And most of the time that's true. But collectors don't just care about how many coins were made. They care about condition, errors, unusual features, and rare varieties, and that's exactly where the 1996 D penny becomes fascinating. Let's start with what this coin is made of. By 1996, U.S. pennies were no longer solid copper like older Lincoln cents from before 1982. Instead, they were made of zinc with a thin copper coating on the outside. This change saved money for the mint, but also made modern pennies more vulnerable to corrosion and damage. That means finding a high-quality, perfectly preserved 1996 D penny today is much harder than most people realize. The design itself is classic. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln's profile, designed by Victor David Brenner, first introduced in 1909 to honor Lincoln's 100th birthday. Above his head is the phrase, "In God We Trust." In front of his face is the word liberty, and below is the date 1996 with the small D mint mark just under it. On the back is the Lincoln Memorial, which was used on pennies from 1959 through 2008. Inside the memorial, if you look closely, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln seated inside, making this one of the few U.S. coins to show the same person on both sides. So far, nothing seems unusual, but collectors know that the value of a coin often lies in what you can't see at first glance. One of the most important factors in a 1996 D penny's value is condition. Most examples were heavily circulated and show scratches, dull surfaces, worn edges, and faded details. These coins are typically worth 1 cent or maybe 2 or 3 cents at best. But when a coin survives in near-perfect condition, especially if it was never circulated, the value can rise dramatically. Coins in uncirculated condition are graded on a scale, with the highest grades showing sharp detail, bright color, and no visible wear. A flawless or nearly flawless 1996 D penny can sell for many dollars, and in some cases, much more. But condition isn't the only factor. Errors and varieties are what really excite collectors. During the minting process, coins are struck at incredible speed. Blanks are fed into presses, struck with dies, and ejected in fractions of a second. With billions of coins produced, mistakes are inevitable. Some coins are struck off-center. Some are struck twice. Some have missing letters or distorted numbers. Some have cracks in the die that transfer strange lines onto the coin's surface. And when those errors escape the mint and enter circulation, they become rare collectibles. The 1996 D penny is known for several types of errors that collectors actively search for. One of the most sought after is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank isn't properly aligned during striking, causing part of the design to be missing while the rest appears shifted. A well-centered off-strike that still shows the date and mint mark can sell for $20, $50, or more, depending on how dramatic the error is. Another popular error is the doubled die. This occurs when the die itself receives a doubled impression during production, causing parts of the design to appear slightly doubled on the finished coin. On Lincoln cents, this often shows up in the date, the word liberty, or the phrase, "In God We Trust." While major doubled die varieties from earlier decades are worth thousands, even minor doubled dies on a 1996 D penny can sell for respectable amounts to collectors who specialize in error coins. Then there are die cracks and die breaks. Over time, minting dies develop stress fractures. When these cracks transfer to coins, they appear as raised lines across the surface. Some cracks are small and subtle, while others are bold and dramatic, sometimes creating what collectors call cuds, where part of the design appears missing or distorted. These types of errors can increase the value of a 1996 penny significantly, especially if the crack is large or visually striking. Another unusual category is the broad strike error, where the coin is struck outside the retaining collar, causing it to expand and appear wider and flatter than normal. These errors are very noticeable and can sell for strong premiums, even on modern coins. Now let's talk about real-world value examples. Most circulated 1996 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, but in uncirculated condition, prices change quickly. A bright, untouched coin graded in high mint state condition can sell for $5, $10, or even more depending on demand and quality. In certified grading reports, top condition examples of the 1996 penny have sold at auction for over $50. That might not sound life-changing, but remember, this is for a coin that most people spend without a second thought, and error examples can climb even higher. Off-center strikes, strong doubled dies, and dramatic die breaks have sold in the $25 to $150 range, sometimes more depending on eye appeal and rarity. For modern collectors, this is exactly the kind of coin that feels exciting, something you can realistically find, yet still holds serious collector interest. So how do you know if your 1996 penny is worth more than face value? First, check for the mint mark. Look below the date on the front of the coin. If you see a small D, it means it was struck at the Denver Mint. If there's no letter, it came from Philadelphia. Both exist, but today we're focused on the Denver version. Next, examine the condition. Hold the coin under good lighting. Is Lincoln's face sharp and detailed, or is it worn and flat? Are the letters crisp, or are they faded? Does the surface look shiny and smooth or dull and scratched? The better the condition, the higher the potential value. Then look closely for errors. Use a magnifying glass or your phone camera. Check the date and letters for doubling. Look at the edges to see if the coin is centered or off-center. Examine the surface for raised lines, cracks, or missing areas. Compare it to a normal penny if you're unsure. Anything that looks unusual could be worth further research. As for counterfeits, modern pennies like the 1996 are rarely faked because their value usually isn't high enough to justify large-scale counterfeiting. However, altered coins do exist. Some people try to fake errors by scratching, grinding, or reshaping coins. Real mint errors look natural, not damaged. If something looks like it was carved or scraped, it's probably not genuine. For high-value coins, professional grading services can authenticate and grade your coin, sealing it in a protective holder with an official label. This makes it easier to sell and confirms its authenticity. Now let's talk about a few fun facts about the 1996 penny. In 1996, the Denver Mint produced more pennies than the entire U.S. Mint produced in some early decades combined. Yet despite this massive production, truly perfect examples are surprisingly scarce because pennies are easily damaged and rarely saved in pristine condition. Another interesting detail is that zinc core pennies like this one actually weigh less than older copper pennies. If you place a 1996 penny next to a Pennies 1982 penny, you'll notice the older coin feels slightly heavier and sounds different when dropped. Also, while the Lincoln Memorial reverse design ended in 2008, it was replaced by special anniversary designs in 2009, and then the Union Shield design in 2010. That means the 1996 penny belongs to the final era of the memorial design, which many collectors now view as a classic period of American coinage. Collectors also enjoy this coin because it represents the everyday money of the late 20th century. It's a piece of history you could have used to buy candy, soda, or stamps. And yet, decades later, it's being examined under magnifying glasses and sold in auctions. So why do collectors love the 1996 D penny today? First, it's accessible. You don't need to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars to own one. You can find it in circulation, in old jars, or in inherited collections. That makes it exciting, especially for beginner collectors. Second, it offers the thrill of the hunt. Most are common, but some are special, and you never know which one you'll find until you look closely. That moment of discovery, spotting an error, a pristine surface, or a rare variety, is what keeps collectors searching. Third, it represents modern American coinage at a massive scale. Coins like this show how the mint evolved, how materials changed, and how production technology advanced. Yet despite modern machines and precision, human error still left behind fascinating mistakes that collectors now treasure. And finally, it reminds us that value isn't always about age or gold. Sometimes, value comes from rarity within abundance, from being the exception among billions. So the next time you see a 1996 penny, don't dismiss it. Flip it over. Look for the D, check the surface. Study the letters. Because somewhere out there, someone once spent a coin that would later sell for many times its face value, simply because they didn't know what they had. And maybe, just maybe, the next one is sitting in your pocket right now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed learning about hidden value in everyday coins, stay curious, because the smallest discoveries often come from the most ordinary places. Most people wouldn't look twice at a penny from 2002. But what if I told you that one small detail on this coin could make the difference between 1 cent and something far more interesting? Today, we're uncovering the true story behind the 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that millions have handled, yet very few have ever truly understood. The 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a United States 1-cent coin that was struck in Philadelphia. When a penny has no mint mark, it usually means it was made at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally does not place a mint mark on most circulating cents. On the surface, this coin looks ordinary. It shows Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But behind this everyday appearance is a fascinating story about American money, modern coin production, and why even common-looking coins can hold hidden value. To understand this coin, we need to go back to the early 2000s. In 2002, the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies every year. The economy was changing, prices were rising, and the demand for small change remained strong. Lincoln cents had been part of American life since 1909, created to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 2002, the design had already been around for decades, and Americans had grown used to seeing Lincoln's face in their pockets. That year, most Lincoln cents were struck at 3 main facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver carry a small D mint mark, while proof coins from San Francisco carry an S. But coins from Philadelphia usually carry no mint mark at all. So when collectors talk about a 2002 no mint mark penny, they are referring to the standard Philadelphia issue. In 2002, over 3 billion Lincoln cents were struck in Philadelphia alone. That's billion with a B. These coins were released into circulation across the country, filling cash registers, piggy banks, vending machines, and coin jars. For most people, they were nothing special. They were just pennies meant to be spent and forgotten. But collectors see things differently. Let's take a closer look at the coin itself. The front, or obverse, features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. This design has been used since 1909, making it one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage history. Lincoln is shown facing right, with the word Liberty behind him and the date in front. Above his head are the words "In God We Trust." The back, or reverse, shows the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial between the columns. Along the top of the reverse are the words United States of America, and at the bottom, 1 cent. In between, above the memorial, is the motto EPLURIBUSUNUM. The 2002 penny is made mostly of zinc, with a thin copper coating on the outside. This composition was introduced in 1982, replacing the older solid copper cents. Each coin weighs about 2.5 grams and measures 19 millimeters across. In the hand, it feels light, almost disposable. But its story is anything but. So if billions were made, why do collectors even care about the 2002 no-mint mark penny? The answer lies in condition, errors, and the simple truth that even common coins can become valuable under the right circumstances. First, let's talk about condition. Most 2002 pennies spent years bouncing around in pockets, purses, and coin jars. They picked up scratches, stains, and wear. But some coins were never circulated at all. These are called uncirculated coins, and they still have their original shine, known as mint luster. Finding a 2002 no-mint mark penny in perfect condition today is surprisingly difficult, especially outside of sealed mint sets. Collectors grade coins on a scale, and coins that score very high, especially M-67 or above, can sell for much more than face value. While most circulated examples are only worth 1 cent, a perfectly preserved 2002 penny can sell for several dollars, and in rare cases, even more, depending on demand and quality. But condition alone isn't the only thing that makes this coin interesting. Errors play a major role too. During the minting process, millions of coins are struck every day using high-speed machinery. With that volume, mistakes are bound to happen. And when they do, collectors pay attention. Some 2002 no-mint mark pennies have been found with off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned on the coin. Others show doubled dies, where parts of the lettering or numbers appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die used to strike the coin. There are also examples with clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is missing because the metal blank was improperly cut before striking. One of the most exciting types of errors is the broad strike, where the coin is struck without the collar that normally shapes its edge, causing it to appear wider and flatter than usual. These error coins are much rarer than normal strikes, and collectors are often willing to pay anywhere from $20 to several $100s for a genuine example, depending on the type and condition of the error. There have also been reports of 2002 pennies struck on the wrong metal planchets, such as dimes or foreign coin blanks. These are extremely rare, but when authenticated, they can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. While such examples are not common, they show how even a modern penny can become a major collector's item. Now let's look at real-world values. In most cases, a circulated 2002 no-mint mark penny is worth exactly 1 cent. But uncirculated examples in mint condition often sell for 25 cents to a few dollars. Coins graded M-67 or higher by professional grading services have sold at auction for $20 to $50, and in some cases more, depending on eye appeal and demand. Error coins, on the other hand, tell a different story. A 2002 no-mint mark penny with a strong doubled die on the date or lettering can sell for $50 to $300 or more. Off-center strikes, depending on how dramatic they are, can bring $25 to $150. Broad strikes and clipped planchets often fall in the $20 to $100 range. And rare wrong planchet errors can go well beyond that, sometimes into the thousands. These are real auction results, not guesses or rumors. They show that even a coin most people ignore can become something special when the right factors come together. Of course, with value comes the risk of fakes and misidentified coins. While counterfeit pennies are less common than fake gold or silver coins, they do exist, especially in the world of error coins. Some people alter coins to make them look like errors, such as filing the edges, flattening them, or damaging them in ways that mimic mint mistakes. So how can you tell a real 2002 no mint mark penny from a fake or altered one? First, look at the weight. A normal 2002 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it's significantly heavier or lighter, something may be off. Next, examine the design closely under magnification. Real double die errors show clean, rounded doubling that looks like a second image, not flat or scratched lines. Also, check the edge and shape. Genuine mint errors usually look smooth and natural, not jagged or artificially cut. If you believe you have a valuable error, the best step is to have it examined by a professional coin dealer or a third-party grading service. Authentication can make the difference between a curiosity and a serious collectible. One of the most surprising things about the 2002 no mint mark penny is how often people overlook it. Because it's modern and common, many collectors focus on older coins instead. But modern coins offer something different. They allow everyday people to participate in coin collecting without spending large amounts of money up front. You can literally find them in your change. Another fun fact is that the Lincoln Memorial reverse design used on the 2002 penny was nearing the end of its run. In 2009, the reverse design would change to honor different stages of Lincoln's life, and in 2010, the shield design would replace it permanently. That makes 2002 part of the final chapter of a long-running design that lasted half a century, from 1959 to 2008. Also, while most Philadelphia pennies don't have mint marks, there are rare exceptions in history. In 2017, for example, the Philadelphia Mint added a P mint mark to Lincoln cents for the first time to celebrate its 225th anniversary. That made no mint mark pennies like the 2002 issue part of a tradition that lasted over 2 centuries. Collectors love the 2002 no mint mark penny not because it's rare in quantity, but because it represents opportunity. It reminds people that valuable coins aren't always ancient or made of gold. Sometimes, they're sitting in a jar on your dresser or hiding in your pocket change. It's the thrill of discovery that keeps collectors searching. There's also something powerful about collecting modern coins. They connect us directly to the time we live in. A 2002 penny may remind someone of the early 2000s, of life before smartphones, before social media took over daily routines. It's a small piece of history that fits in the palm of your hand. Another reason collectors enjoy these coins is affordability. You don't need thousands of dollars to build a meaningful collection. You can start by searching rolls of pennies from the bank, pulling aside uncirculated examples and watching for errors. Over time, those small finds can add up, not just in value, but in knowledge and enjoyment. And then there's the emotional side of collecting. Many people remember sorting coins with parents or grandparents, checking dates, and hoping to find something special. The 2002 no mint mark penny continues that tradition. It keeps the hunt alive in a world where so much feels digital and distant. So what should you do if you find one? First, take a close look. Check the date. Confirm there's no mint mark under the year. Look at the condition. Is it shiny and clean or worn and dull? Then look for errors. Check the lettering, the numbers, and the edges. Even small details can matter. If you think you've found something unusual, set it aside. Don't clean it, because cleaning can damage the surface and reduce value. Instead, store it in a small envelope or coin holder and consider having it evaluated by a professional. Even if it turns out to be a normal coin, the experience itself is part of the reward. You've learned something new, sharpened your eye, and connected with a hobby that has fascinated people for generations. The 2002 no mint mark Lincoln penny teaches us an important lesson. Value isn't always obvious. Sometimes, the most ordinary objects carry the most interesting stories. A coin worth 1 cent can become a gateway into history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. And who knows? The next time you reach into your pocket or dump out a jar of spare change, you might spot that familiar date, 2002, staring back at you. And this time, instead of passing it by, you'll know exactly what to look for. Because in the world of coins, every detail matters. And sometimes, the smallest details lead to the biggest surprises. So keep your eyes open, keep your curiosity alive, and remember this. The next valuable coin you discover might already be in your hands, just waiting for you to notice it. Have you ever picked up a penny and wondered if it might secretly be worth far more than 1 cent? Because one ordinary-looking coin from 2004 has been hiding in millions of pockets, jars, and drawers, and most people have no idea what they're holding. Today, we're diving into the story of the 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks common, feels ordinary, but carries a fascinating history, surprising details, and a few rare variations that collectors actively search for. Let's start with what this coin actually is. The 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced by the United States Mint in Philadelphia. When a coin has no mint mark, it usually means it was made in Philadelphia, because that mint traditionally doesn't place a letter on most circulating pennies. In 2004, billions of Lincoln cents were struck, and millions of them entered everyday circulation, grocery store change, vending machines, and pockets across America. At first glance, this penny looks just like many others from the early 2000s. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing right, a design first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Above his head is the word Liberty, and in front of his face is the date, 2004. Just beneath the date is the phrase "In God We Trust." On the back, the design features the Lincoln Memorial, a familiar image used from 1959 through 2008. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, which makes this one of the few U.S. coins that shows the same person on both sides. Now let's talk about the history behind this coin. The year 2004 was a time of economic stability in the United States, and the U.S. Mint was producing massive quantities of coins to meet everyday demand. By this point, pennies were no longer made primarily of copper. In fact, since 1982, Lincoln cents have been made of zinc with a thin copper coating. That change was made because copper became too expensive to use in large quantities. So your 2004 penny is actually about 97.5% zinc and only about 2.5% copper. But to the eye, it still looks like a classic copper cent. Each coin weighs about 2.5 grams and measures just over 19 millimeters in diameter. Even though these coins were mass-produced, they still carry the weight of American history. The Lincoln cent is the longest-running design in U.S. coinage, and by 2004, Americans had been using this same portrait of Lincoln for nearly 95 years. That consistency makes even modern Lincoln cents part of a long and respected tradition. Now let's look at the unique features of the 2004 no-mint mark penny. First, the portrait itself. This version of Lincoln was originally designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner in 1909, and while it has gone through minor refinements over the decades, the basic image remains the same. The lettering is clean and bold, with Liberty clearly visible behind Lincoln's head and the date neatly placed in front of his chest. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial design was created by Frank Gasparro in 1959. The columns, steps, and central statue are finely detailed, especially on well-preserved examples. If you tilt the coin under good lighting, you can sometimes see sharp architectural lines that are easy to miss at first glance. But what truly makes some 2004 pennies special isn't the design, it's the mistakes. Errors and varieties are where collectors start paying attention. Most 2004 no-mint mark pennies are only worth face value, 1 cent, if they're heavily worn or damaged. but certain error coins from this year can be worth significantly more. One of the most interesting types is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin isn't properly positioned during striking, causing the design to be shifted to one side. Some off-center 2004 pennies show only part of Lincoln's face or incomplete lettering, and depending on how dramatic the error is, they can sell for anywhere from $10 to over $100. Another collectible variety is the double die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin is slightly misaligned during manufacturing, resulting in doubled letters or numbers. On some 2004 pennies, collectors have found doubling on Liberty, in God We Trust, or even the date itself. These coins can sell for $20 to $300 or more, depending on how strong and clear the doubling is. There are also clipped planchet errors, where part of the metal blank is missing before the coin is struck. This creates a curved or jagged missing section along the edge of the coin. These errors are unusual and often sell for $10 to $75 or more, depending on condition and size of the clip. And then there are broad strike errors, coins struck without the retaining collar that normally shapes them, causing the coin to spread out wider than normal and lose its rim. These errors can bring $15 to $60 or more in collector markets. Now let's talk about why collectors care about this coin at all, when so many were made. The truth is, most 2004 no-mint mark pennies are extremely common. The Philadelphia Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents that year. In average circulated condition, they're worth exactly 1 cent. But coin collecting isn't only about rarity. It's also about condition. A 2004 penny in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially one graded by a professional coin grading service, can be worth significantly more than face value. Coins graded MS67 or higher, meaning nearly flawless, can sell for $50 to $150 or more, depending on demand and eye appeal. These are coins that likely never circulated and still show full mint luster, sharp detail, and no visible wear. Collectors love finding these modern gems because they prove that even recent pocket change can turn into a valuable collectible if preserved perfectly. Now let's look at real-world value examples. In recent years, certified 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln cents in high mint state grades have sold at auction for prices ranging from $30 to over $100. Error coins, depending on type and condition, have sold for anywhere between $10 and $300 or more. Off-center strikes with strong visual appeal tend to bring the highest prices among error examples. One collector sold a sharply doubled die 2004 penny online for over $200 after professional authentication. Another off-center strike example sold for around $85 because Lincoln's face was still mostly visible, making the coin both dramatic and collectible. While these prices won't change someone's life overnight, they prove something important. Modern pennies are not automatically worthless. Sometimes, the value comes not from age, but from uniqueness. So how do you know if you have a real 2004 no-mint mark penny worth keeping, or just a normal cent? First, look at the date. Make sure it says 2004 clearly and that there is no letter under the date. No D and no S means Philadelphia. Next, check the condition. If the coin looks shiny, clean, and free of scratches or wear, it might be uncirculated. Compare it to other pennies in your pocket. If it stands out immediately, that's a good sign. Then inspect the lettering. Use a magnifying glass or your phone camera zoom. Look for doubling in Liberty, in God We Trust, or the date. Real doubled dies show clean, separated doubling, not blurry edges caused by wear or damage. Check the edges of the coin for missing sections or unusual shapes. That could indicate a clipped planchet. Also check whether the coin looks wider than normal or lacks a raised rim, which could point to a broad strike. Avoid coins that appear filed, scratched, or altered. Damage lowers value, even if the coin is old. If you believe you found something unusual, consider showing it to a reputable coin dealer or submitting it to a professional grading service for confirmation. Now let's talk about a few surprising facts about the 2004 penny. Even though these coins are mostly zinc, if the copper plating gets damaged, the silvery gray zinc core becomes visible. That's why some modern pennies look dull or spotted. It's not dirt, it's exposed metal underneath. Another interesting detail is that during the early 2000s, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with improving die quality and strike consistency, which is partly why error coins from this era tend to be smaller in number compared to earlier decades, making confirmed errors more appealing to collectors. Also, because the Lincoln Memorial Reverse ended in 2008, coins like the 2004 penny represent the final era of a design that lasted nearly 50 years. That gives them historical importance, even if they aren't rare. And here's a fun fact. The tiny Lincoln statue on the back of the coin is detailed enough that under strong magnification, you can actually see Lincoln's seated figure. This makes the Lincoln cent one of the few coins in the world to feature the same person twice on the same coin. Now let's talk about why collectors love this coin today. Collectors are drawn to the 2004 no mint mark penny not because it's rare, but because it's accessible. Anyone can find one. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars or visit auctions. You just need to check your change. For beginner collectors, this coin is a perfect starting point. It teaches people how to examine coins, understand mint marks, identify errors, and appreciate condition. For experienced collectors, it's a fun challenge to locate high-grade examples or unusual varieties. There's also something deeply satisfying about discovering value in something everyone else overlooks. A penny that sat unnoticed in a drawer for years might suddenly become a collector piece, not because it's old, but because it's special. And that's what coin collecting is really about. Not just money, but curiosity, history, and the thrill of discovery. So what should you do if you have a 2004 no mint mark penny? First, don't clean it. Cleaning destroys value and damages the surface. Instead, store it in a dry place, preferably in a coin flip or small protective holder. Second, examine it closely for errors, condition, and strike quality. Third, if it looks unusual or especially sharp, consider getting it professionally evaluated. And finally, keep searching. Because if a modern penny like this can surprise collectors, imagine what else might be hiding in your change. Now let's bring everything together. The 2004 no mint mark Lincoln penny is not a rare coin in the traditional sense. Millions exist. Most are worth only 1 cent. But among them are hidden treasures, error coins, high-grade examples, and unusual strikes that collectors are willing to pay real money for. It's a reminder that history isn't always locked away in museums or vaults. Sometimes, it's sitting quietly in your pocket, and that's the beauty of coin collecting. Because the next time you hear the soft clink of change in your hand, that sound might not just be money, it might be opportunity. So before you spend that penny, take one more look. Because sometimes the most ordinary coins hold the most unexpected stories. Most people would walk right past this coin without a second glance. But what if I told you that one small detail on a 2014 penny could make the difference between 1 cent and something far more interesting? Today, we're uncovering the story behind the 2014 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a modern coin with hidden surprises that collectors quietly search for every day. Let's start with what this coin actually is. The 2014 D Lincoln penny is a 1 cent coin produced by the United States Mint in Denver in the year 2014. The small letter D below the date shows where it was made, at the Denver Mint, one of the country's main coin production facilities. This penny continues the long-running Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 and has become one of the most familiar coins in American history. At first glance, it looks like just another ordinary penny in your pocket. But behind its simple appearance is a fascinating story of American history, changing money, and the quiet world of collectors who know that even modern coins can carry surprising value. The year 2014 came during a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies annually, even as fewer people were using cash in daily life. Despite this shift, the penny remained deeply symbolic. It carried the face of Abraham Lincoln, the first real person ever featured on a U.S. coin, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, a design that had been in place since 1959. In 2014, the country was approaching the 155th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and the 150th anniversary of the end of the Civil War. While the penny itself didn't change that year, it represented continuity, a quiet reminder of American history in a world that was becoming more digital and fast-paced. The Denver Mint produced over 4 billion Lincoln cents in 2014, making the 2014 D penny extremely common in circulation. That might sound like bad news for collectors, but here's the truth. Rarity doesn't always come from low numbers alone. Sometimes it comes from condition, sometimes it comes from mistakes, and sometimes it comes from what most people overlook. Let's take a closer look at what makes this penny unique. The 2014 D Lincoln penny is made of zinc, with a thin copper coating on the outside. Since 1982, U.S. pennies have used this copper-plated zinc composition instead of solid copper. The coin weighs 2.5 grams and measures 19 millimeters across, small, lightweight, and easily forgotten. On the front, or obverse, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the word Liberty to the left and the year 2014 to the right. Just below the date is the small D mint mark. On the reverse side is the Lincoln Memorial, with the words United States of America across the top and 1 cent at the bottom. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, a detail that many people never notice. But here's where things get interesting. While most 2014 D pennies are worth only face value, certain versions can be worth much more, sometimes dozens, even hundreds of dollars, depending on their condition and whether they contain rare mint errors. One of the most desirable versions of this coin is one that has never been circulated. These coins show full original luster, no scratches, and no wear on Lincoln's face or the memorial. In top condition, these pennies are graded by professional services and can sell for far more than you'd expect from a modern coin. But condition isn't the only thing collectors look for. Errors are where excitement really begins. Some 2014 D pennies were struck with mistakes during the minting process. These errors happened when machines malfunctioned, dies wore down, or blanks were misaligned. And once these flawed coins escaped into circulation, they became accidental treasures. One example is the off-center strike, where the design appears shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. The more dramatic the shift, the more collectors tend to value it. Another is the double die error, where parts of the design appear doubled, especially in the lettering or date. This happens when the die that strikes the coin shifts slightly during the process. While rare on modern pennies, verified double die examples can bring strong collector interest. There are also clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing because the metal blank was cut improperly. These coins often look like someone took a bite out of the edge, and collectors love them. Then there are broad strikes, where the coin expands beyond its normal size because it wasn't properly contained during striking. These coins appear wider and thinner than usual. And perhaps most exciting are wrong planchet errors, where a penny is struck on metal meant for another coin. These are extremely rare, but when they happen, they can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the metal and condition. Now, let's talk real numbers. Most circulated 2014 D pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, but uncirculated examples can sell for much more. In mint condition, certified coins graded MS67 or higher have sold for anywhere from $20 to over $100, depending on eye appeal and demand at the time of sale. Error coins bring even stronger prices. Off-center strikes from this year have sold for $30 to $150. Broad strikes and clipped planchets often sell in the $20 to $75 range. Double die errors, if clearly visible and authenticated, can reach well over $200. While these numbers might not sound life-changing, remember this. People find these coins in pocket change, old jars, and bank rolls. A 1-cent coin turning into a $50 or $100 find is something that still happens today, and that's what keeps collectors searching. So how can you tell if you have a real and valuable 2014 D penny? First, check the date and mint mark. The coin should say 2014 with a small d under the year. Make sure the design looks sharp and not blurry or worn down. Next, look at the condition. Is Lincoln's face smooth and shiny? Are the letters crisp? Is the surface free of scratches or dark spots? The better the condition, the higher the potential value. Then, inspect the coin closely for errors. Look at the letters and numbers for doubling. Check the edges for missing sections. Make sure the design is centered. Compare your coin to a normal penny if possible. Differences often become more obvious side by side. Be careful about damage, though. Scratches, dents, and corrosion do not increase value. Only mint-made errors matter to collectors. If you're unsure, professional grading services can authenticate coins and confirm whether an error is genuine. Now let's talk about something most people don't realize. Even though billions of 2014 D pennies were made, very few survive in top condition. That's because most were immediately put into circulation, where they rubbed against other coins, scraped against surfaces, and picked up marks. Truly flawless examples are rare, and that scarcity drives collector interest. Another surprising detail is that modern pennies are more expensive to make than they're worth. The U.S. Mint has spent more than 1 cent to produce a 1-cent coin for years. Yet the penny remains in circulation because of tradition, accounting practices, and public attachment. That makes modern pennies like the 2014 D part of a larger story about how money evolves and sometimes resists change. Here's another fun fact. The Lincoln Memorial reverse design, seen on the 2014 D penny, was used from 1959 until 2008. That means the 2014 penny belongs to the final generation of this classic design style, making it part of a closing chapter in U.S. coin history. Collectors also enjoy searching modern pennies because they offer something older coins can't: accessibility. You don't need to attend auctions or spend large amounts of money. You can simply check your change, roll hunt from banks, or search through old jars at home. The thrill comes from discovery, and that's exactly why collectors love the 2014 D Lincoln penny. It represents the idea that treasure doesn't always come from the distant past. Sometimes, it comes from yesterday's pocket change. It's a reminder that coins aren't just money, they're artifacts of everyday life, frozen in metal. Collectors also appreciate this coin because it shows how even high-mintage coins can become valuable through condition, rarity of errors, and collector demand. It's not about how old a coin is, it's about how unique it is. For new collectors, the 2014 D penny is a perfect starting point. It's easy to find, affordable, and full of learning opportunities. You can practice spotting mint marks, grading condition, and identifying errors, all without risk. And for experienced collectors, this coin offers the excitement of the hunt. Searching thousands of pennies to find one extraordinary example is what keeps the hobby alive. Now imagine this. You're digging through an old jar of coins, something you've had for years. You spot a shiny penny with a 2014 date and a small D under it. At first, you almost toss it aside until something catches your eye. The letters look slightly doubled. The coin seems wider than normal. Or maybe the surface shines like it just left the mint. That moment, that pause, is what makes coin collecting addictive. Because sometimes, the most ordinary-looking coins hold the most unexpected stories. The 2014 D. Lincoln penny may never headline museums or sell for millions, but it carries something just as powerful: possibility. It represents the idea that history is still being made, that treasures are still hiding in plain sight, and that curiosity can turn everyday objects into something meaningful. So next time you get change at a store, don't rush to spend it. Take a closer look. That small copper-colored coin might not just be worth 1 cent, it might be worth your attention. And who knows? The next valuable coin story might start in your own pocket. Most people walk past this coin every day without a second thought. But what if I told you that a simple 2015 penny, the kind you might still find in your change, could be hiding something collectors quietly search for, and sometimes pay far more than 1 cent to own? Today, we're diving into the story of the 2015 no mint mark Lincoln penny. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. But like many modern coins, its real story is hidden in tiny details most people never notice. The 2015 Lincoln penny is part of one of the longest-running coin series in American history. The Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and more than a century later, Lincoln still appears on America's smallest circulating coin. By 2015, the Lincoln cent had already gone through many design changes, metal changes, and production shifts. Yet this penny, struck in massive numbers, still carries hidden surprises that make collectors stop and take a second look, especially when it has no mint mark. So what exactly does no mint mark mean? On U.S. coins, the mint mark tells you where the coin was made. A D means Denver. An S means San Francisco. But when there's no mint mark at all, that usually means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally didn't use mint marks on most coins until recent decades. The 2015 no mint mark penny came from Philadelphia, and while millions were produced, not all were created equal. Some examples contain subtle errors, unusual finishes, or striking characteristics that turn an ordinary cent into a collectible treasure. But before we get into rarity and value, let's talk about the world this coin came from. In 2015, the United States was producing billions of pennies each year, even though the cost of making a cent had risen higher than its face value. Yet the Lincoln cent remained a powerful symbol of American history, everyday commerce, and tradition. That year's penny features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, originally designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner. Lincoln faces right, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date, 2015, to the right. On the back, instead of the famous wheat ears or the Lincoln Memorial seen on earlier coins, the 2015 penny shows the Union Shield design, first introduced in 2010. The shield symbolizes Lincoln's preservation of the United States during the Civil War. 13 vertical stripes represent the original colonies, held together by a strong horizontal bar across the top, a quiet reminder that unity protects freedom. Now let's talk about what this penny is actually made of. Unlike older copper pennies from before 1982, the 2015 Lincoln cent is mostly zinc. It has a core made of 97.5% zinc, coated in a thin layer of copper. To the eye, it looks copper. To the scale, it feels light. And to collectors, its composition marks it as part of the modern era of U.S. coinage, a time when materials changed, minting speed increased, and errors became more likely. And that's where things get interesting. Most 2015 no mint mark pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, but some examples stand out due to rare minting errors. And those are the coins collectors actively hunt for. One of the most valuable error types involves doubled dies. This happens when the coin's design is impressed twice at slightly different angles, creating a doubling effect on letters or numbers. On a doubled die penny, you might see the date or the words "In God We Trust" appearing slightly shadowed or doubled, especially under magnification. Another known error type involves off-center strikes, where the coin design is shifted to one side, leaving part of the blank edge exposed. These errors happen when the metal blank isn't properly aligned during striking. The more dramatic the shift, the more collectors tend to value the coin. There are also clipped planchets, coins that appear to have a curved piece missing from the edge, and die cracks, where raised lines appear due to damaged minting equipment. While these might seem like flaws in the world of coin collecting, they're often seen as fingerprints of the minting process, proof that something unusual happened during production. But perhaps the most intriguing errors are transitional or wrong metal strikes. Occasionally, a penny might be struck on a planchet meant for a different coin denomination, resulting in a coin that looks off-color, weighs differently, or sounds strange when dropped. These mistakes are extremely rare, but when found, they can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So is the 2015 no mint mark penny rare. In terms of standard circulation examples, no, billions were minted. But in the world of coin collecting, rarity doesn't always mean low mintage. It often means low survival in perfect condition or the presence of specific, documented errors. For example, a regular 2015 penny in worn condition is worth 1 cent. A shiny, uncirculated example might sell for 10 to 50 cents. But a professionally graded coin in near-perfect condition, especially one with strong luster and no contact marks, can sell for several dollars or more. Now add a confirmed mint error, and the value can jump dramatically. Some double-die 2015 pennies have sold in the $50 to $300 range, depending on strength and condition. Off-center strikes can bring anywhere from $40 to several $100s. Dramatic clipped planchets and wrong metal errors have reached 4 figures in some documented cases. Collectors pay for rarity, but they also pay for clarity. The clearer the error, the stronger the demand. So how do you know if your 2015 no mint mark penny is special? Start by checking the date and the mint mark area under the word Liberty. If there's no letter, it's from Philadelphia. That's normal, but it's your starting point. Next, look closely at the numbers in the date and the lettering in God We Trust. Do any letters look doubled? Do the edges of the numbers seem shadowed or thickened? Use a magnifying glass or phone camera zoom if needed. Then examine the shape of the coin. Is it perfectly round? Is the design centered? Does any part of the image appear cut off or shifted? Look at the edge. Does it appear smooth and complete, or does it look clipped or uneven? Also weigh the coin if you can. A normal 2015 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. Anything significantly lighter or heavier could suggest a wrong metal strike or a missing layer of plating. Finally, check the surface. Is the color uniform? Does it look silvery instead of copper-colored? Is there bubbling, peeling, or texture that seems unusual? If something feels off, it might be worth showing the coin to a local coin dealer or submitting it to a professional grading service for authentication. Now let's talk about real-world value examples. In recent collector markets, high-grade 2015 pennies graded MS67 or higher have sold for anywhere from $20 to over $100 depending on demand and auction timing. That might not sound life-changing, but remember, this is from a coin that originally cost 1 cent and still circulates today. Documented error coins, however, tell a different story. A strong double-die example sold online for over $250. A dramatic off-center strike with clear date and lettering reached nearly $400. And rare wrong metal strikes from modern pennies have been known to exceed $1,000 when authenticated. These aren't everyday finds, but they do exist. And they often come from pocket change, coin rolls, or jars that haven't been searched in years. That's part of what makes modern coin hunting so exciting. You don't need to inherit a collection or buy rare coins at auctions. Sometimes, all you need is curiosity and a careful eye. Now let's talk about how to spot fake or altered coins. Most fake error coins start as regular pennies that have been damaged intentionally. People may try to flatten edges, carve parts of the design, or use tools to simulate doubling or clipping. But real mint errors almost always have smooth, natural-looking surfaces without tool marks or sharp cuts. If a coin looks scratched, gouged, or artificially bent, it's probably damage, not a mint error. Real doubled dies show rounded, raised doubling, not flat or scraped lines. Real off-center strikes maintain consistent metal flow and smooth rims. If you're unsure, a reputable coin dealer or grading service can quickly tell the difference. Here's something surprising most people don't know. Even though pennies are considered low-value coins, Lincoln cents are among the most widely collected coins in the world. Millions of Americans collect them casually without realizing it, setting aside wheat pennies, shiny new ones, or coins from birth years. The 2015 penny represents a modern chapter in this long story. It's one of the last Lincoln cents made before serious discussions began about eliminating the penny altogether. That gives it quiet historical significance, a snapshot of America's smallest coin during a time when its future was uncertain. Another fun fact is that the Union Shield design on the back is only the second permanent reverse design in Lincoln cent history after the wheat ears. The Lincoln Memorial reverse, which many people remember, was actually used for just over 50 years, long by modern standards, but short compared to the wheat design's reign. That makes the 2015 penny part of a relatively young design era, one collectors continue to study and catalog as new errors and varieties are discovered. Collectors also love the 2015 no mint mark penny because it represents accessibility. You don't need thousands of dollars to get started. You can search pocket change, coin rolls from banks, or old jars at home. Every coin carries a small chance of being something more, and that sense of possibility is powerful. For some collectors, it's not about money at all. It's about finding something overlooked, something that traveled through countless hands unnoticed until someone finally stopped, looked closely, and saw what others missed. And that's the true story behind this coin. The 2015 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't famous. It isn't flashy. It isn't rare in the traditional sense, but it lives in that fascinating space between ordinary and extraordinary, where history, manufacturing, and chance intersect. Most examples will always be worth 1 cent, but a small number carry stories written in metal, tiny mistakes frozen in time, that transform them into collectibles, conversation pieces, and sometimes valuable finds. So the next time you receive a penny in your change, don't dismiss it. Turn it over. Look closely at the date. Check the mint mark. Study the letters, because somewhere out there, hidden among billions of ordinary coins, is a penny just like this, waiting for someone to notice it. And who knows, the next one could be sitting in your pocket right now.